And guys, now on the show, we have a little update from what we did yesterday. We talked about drama on Capitol Hill. Speaker Mike Johnson was asked, is Sarah, quote unquote, Sarah McBride, a man? Sarah McBride was born Tim McBride, a biological man, elected as the first transgender identifying member of Congress. And the real women in Congress are asking, hey, are you going to let this biological dude in our bathroom, in our locker room? And Speaker Mike Johnson, when he was asked, he wouldn't say that McBride was a man. He kind of dismissed it. And you know what we did on this show? You and I, we raised a ruckus. We emailed Speaker Johnson. We called him out on X and said, listen, you gotta speak with objective truth. You gotta say a man is a man and can't be a woman, and biological men aren't gonna be allowed in women's bathrooms because we respect the real women of Congress. And we got his attention. We did get his attention. But here's the thing. We do need to keep this up because Speaker Johnson is emblematic of a problem that we've had in the Republican Party for a long time. I mean, let me quote his response from yesterday, and I'll tell you what I mean by this. He said, look, I'm not going to get into this. That's what his response was when he was asked, are you going to let McBride, this transgender identifying representative, into the women's bathroom? He said, we welcome all new members with open arms who are duly elected representatives of the people. But the sentence that stuck out to me was, look, I'm not going to get into this. And he added after that, he said he believes that it's a command that we treat all persons with dignity and respect. He said, and we will. When pressed as to whether or not he would bring forth Congresswoman Nancy Mace's bill, which would actually ban biological men from women's bathrooms and vice versa, Johnson again rebuffed the question. He said, I'm not going to engage in this. He said, we don't look down upon anyone. We treat everybody with dignity and respect. He said, that's a principle that I've pursued my whole life, and we will take care of this issue of first impression for Congress as we will any other thing. Yet those two phrases, look, I'm not going to get into this, and I'm not going to engage in this, those are very telling. Wanting to avoid culture war battles, as Johnson indicated in those remarks, is an attitude that has actually led us to this current moment. Republicans, out of whatever it might be, improper politeness or misguided political principles or fear, have avoided issues like the transgender issue for decades now. But the left has not. And it's why Johnson is actually forced to deal with a man wanting to use the women's bathrooms in the halls of Congress. Did you ever think we would get to a moment in our country where this is what we'd be facing? So it doesn't matter if you don't want to get into this, because the left does want to get into this. And they're going to break down the doors of every norm until it's all around you, until it's impossible for you and for me to avoid, as Johnson is finding out now as they're breaking down the bathroom doors on Capitol Hill. Now, hours after we mocked Johnson on X and on this show, thank God for X. X is so influential in the political narrative. Do not for a second doubt the power of your voice on X. Johnson, or maybe more like his staffers, must have read the political tea leaves because Johnson quickly changed his tune. He issued a new statement. He said, I just want to make a statement for you all here, and I want to be very clear. He said, I was asked a question this morning at a leadership gaggle, and this is what he said. I'm going to show you the video of what he then said. I think I'm going to show you the video. Do we have the video, Tim? Okay, I'll read you his quote while we're bringing up the video. He said, I was asked a question at the leadership gaggle, and I rejected the premise because the answer is so obvious. Okay, this is what he said. Here's the video.
Hello, everybody. I just want to make a statement for all of you here and be very clear. I was asked a question this morning at the leadership gaggle, and I rejected the premise because the answer is so obvious. For anybody who doesn't know my well-established record on this issue, let me be unequivocally clear. A man is a man, and a woman is a woman, and a man cannot become a woman. That said, I also believe, that's what Scripture teaches, what I just said, but I also believe that we treat everybody with dignity. And so we can do and believe all those things at the same time. And I wanted to make that clear for everybody because there's lots of questions. But that's where I stand. I've stood there my whole life, and those are facts.
But he actually Did not do that at all. Speaker Johnson does not reject the premise as he claimed. He shied away from rejecting it head on. He actually allowed confusion to grow. I still don't know where he stands on this. And in confusion, there's chaos. And the left wants chaos. The left likes chaos because the left takes advantage of that chaos and it uses that chaos to advance their agenda even further. Speaker Johnson, let me speak to you directly. While you are avoiding getting into this, the left is marching full steam ahead with their LGBTQIA agenda with no signs of slowing down. That means while you stand there on principle or morals or personal character or whatever excuse you come up with to rationalize fecklessness, the left is just blowing right past you. And on this issue, to use just one example, they've gone so far past you that stopping the transgender mutilation of children is now a political battle with billions of dollars at stake. And the left is fighting for every penny of that. You might think that silence is acceptable because the answer is so obvious, as you say, but it's not. When conservatives are silent on key issues, on cultural issues, the left speaks louder than ever before, and they accompany their words with actions that are harmful. Do you know what the next battle is that's coming down the pike? One that's already in states all around our country, affecting families. While the left claims that gender-confused children who are raised in homes with parents who believe in Christian values, like you do, Speaker Johnson, like I do, like the people watching this show, and the divine, biological, complementary, and immutable differences between a man and a woman, the left claims that these children are in danger and should be taken away from families with beliefs such as ours. The left uses the law, the power of government, to enforce that in some states. This is not hypothetical. This is happening, Speaker Johnson. Now, it might seem, quote unquote, obvious to Speaker Johnson and to normal thinking Americans that what I just described is tyranny, that it's an attack on the institution of the family. But that matters not to the left. They aren't concerned with what is obvious. They're not concerned with respecting social norms. They're concerned with winning. That means that we need a Speaker of the House and a GOP at large who's not only going to engage in this fight, but somebody who wants to be victorious, who's hungry for victory, and isn't afraid to deal with the issue squarely. Now, to his credit, I suppose, Speaker Johnson did clarify that men aren't allowed in women's bathrooms in Capitol Hill. I, for one, still don't know what this means because Speaker Johnson has not directly said that Representative McBride is the biological man that he is, and as such is not allowed in the women's bathroom. Again, Johnson's refusal to engage in this issue because he doesn't want to get into it because he claims it's obvious has left nothing but confusion. He hasn't really met the moment. His or her knee-jerk reaction, whoever the Speaker of the House is, whoever's leading the GOP, can't be to avoid the culture war. Avoiding the culture war is exactly how we got into this cultural chaos to begin with. Speaker Johnson needs to be ready. He needs to be willing. He needs to be capable of fighting until we win this battle. When it comes to the culture, the only way out of the cultural chaos that we're in is through it. Speaker Johnson and much of the Republican Party needs to get with the times and be based, or else our country is going to die. Keep pressure on Speaker Johnson. Call his office, email him, tag him on X, politely demand that he engage in the culture war, that he be unafraid to speak reality, because if he doesn't, if our values don't prevail, then the left's will. And the left's values are harmful to individuals, to women, to families, and to our country.